Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel.
Hello.
Alright, so today's topic is pregnancy and labor from a male and female's perspective.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about both pregnancies, right?
Yeah.
Both of our kids.
Well, from our perspective, of course, female, male.
Okay.
What our thought process was, and just kind of like maybe it's different or similar to somebody else's. But when I found out I was pregnant with our first, I was actually at work. So, I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, it's been, a while. Like, maybe I should take a test and see where it's at. So I did take a test, and I was like, oh, it's positive. Okay, well, when you picked me up, I think we were on the highway.
Yeah, it was on 75.
So we were on the highway, and
Traffic.
you were speaking to me about that you were going to be really busy because of work and all these new projects that were coming up.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I felt like that was the right time to be like, yeah, you're definitely going to be busy. And I guess the way I was saying it, you were like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what are you, like, because I guess it kind of sounded sarcastic.
Yeah.
Like, and you were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm pregnant.
Nah, it is crazy because when I heard the news, I was just like, wow. I had to ask you again, right? Because I was shocked. Because I was just talking about projects.
Yeah.
Because I remember, my manager at that time, she's like, yeah, you're going to have, 3 to 4 projects that you're going to have to handle.
Here's your fifth.
And I was just like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you're definitely going to be busy now. I remember vaguely, but then I was like, what? What are you talking? And then he was like, I'm pregnant. I was like, what am I supposed to? I'm on 75. I'm on I-75, us going home up north. And what am I supposed to do? Just pull over? We were right in the middle of traffic. And I was just like, wow, but I mean, you already know, right?
Yeah.
This whole time, I was wanting to, build a family with you, right? So that wasn't a surprise. So I was excited, but then again, I was kind of, my mind started getting,
It's
all
crazy.
over the place because I was trying to figure out, how to start planning from there.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because it's like you're stating that you had that excitement, but I feel like a lot of it was kept internally, yeah. And you didn't really share it with me. So I was like looking at you, and like even when we got home, I was just like, yeah, and you were like, okay, yeah, we're pregnant, and you were like, okay, we gotta start thinking about this and this, and I'm just looking at you, and I'm like, I get that. And I understand that comes with a child, but can we just kind of absorb the fact that I am pregnant and not go to that? And, you just automatically went into this is what we got to do, this is what we got to do. And, you didn't really absorb it as much as I felt like maybe you should. Or if you did, you didn't really share it.
Yeah.
So in my head,
my
head, I was just kind of like, okay, thank you for this transaction that we just had. I'm going to go ahead and sit down and watch some TV.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just so many thoughts going through my mind, what it is that I need to do to prepare for that time, right? Because, me, I'm all about preparation, making sure we at least have, most things covered, because I'm trying to avoid any stress in the back end, right? That's just me. You always know that's how I move, right? So, yeah, my mind started working, and I was just trying to, to make sure everything was good. But the moment of when she was born, I was holding her is when I was kind of, it all kind of just came out right then and there.
I think it's so crazy because it's like, yes, in regards to I don't know if this is how it is in regards to a partnership. It may be very different for someone who's a single mother or even a single father. But you took a lot of the financial thought process of what do we need to get? What do we need to do? How can we save money? Where do we need to cut, things? And in my head, I was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
I was just because in my head, I was like, even though this was our first child, I don't know, it's almost like something clicked in my head, and it was just like, okay, I'm pregnant, we're having a kid, I have to get used to this. This is just something I have to.
But then the fact that okay, the kind of person I am, right? You know, I'm planning. You know, I'm making sure that the environment and everything is in place. Did you think that kind of helped in terms of giving you that comfort to be in that mode? Because imagine if I wasn't that type. What if I was the more laid back type, wasn't really planning as much?
No, I understand.
Would you still be on that, okay, like whatever?
Well, I understand where you're coming from because yes, it gave me a sense of peace in regards to he's planning all that stuff, but at the same but at the same time, I would have liked a little bit of more emotional output from you.
That's tough.
Because because it's like I don't think that's tough, and the reason why I'm saying I don't think it should have been tough for you because it's just due to the fact that we got together when we were in college. Mm-hmm. And ever since we were in college and we had a relationship, I always knew you wanted a family.
Oh, of course.
So in my head, I was like, he's going to be ecstatic because it's just like, we're actually having a family. This is something he's thought of for years since we've been together. And it was like when it happened and, when I told you, and even after when we were home, it didn't feel like there was much excitement.
Nah, you know what it is?
Like, so it was just kind of like, okay. And in my head, no. And in my head, I was like, I understand you're a planning person, and I get it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just felt like I needed more of that, are we good? Like, are you happy? Like, is this something that you're okay with? Because it's like, you went straight to planning, and in my head I was like, planning is great, but I want to make sure that you want this, and you're not stressing yourself out.
No, yeah. I mean, the thing is, you have to understand my character, right? When did you ever see me jump around and do, jumping jacks and all that stuff when a big accomplishment has happened? Never, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's not how I was raised. I was always taught to be humble, and then when you do accomplish something, you got to get ready for the next thing. There's really no time to kind of just jump around for joy. Like, that was just what was taught to me, right? So, at that moment, those same habits that I have clicked. That's what it was. Yes, I was super excited, but now I was like, but there's still work to do. There's still things that I need to get done, and I can't, waste any time in terms of making sure that we have what we need. Not just financially, but just around the home,
I guess
everything.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm.
And remember, as a man, I'm in protective mode. Yeah. Right? You got to understand that. Like, okay, what is it that I need to do to make sure that my family is not just financially in a good spot, but is safe. Right? So you're never gonna understand that, right?
No,
because
I'm not.
as a female, your mind is wired differently, but that's how I'm wired. And I know a lot of other males, they can understand it from my perspective too. But yeah, there's males out there that can show emotion more than what I would. But I already know what I wanted. I told you what I wanted.
Well,
and it was definitely something that I wanted to get.
I guess it's also because the way, like you said, the way you were raised and then the way I was raised, the females in my family, it's more of inshallah kind of thing. Not inshallah like, oh, I don't care, but more of like, when I was born, my mother barely had anything for me. We didn't have a crib, we didn't have a stroller. So it was just kind of like, for my mother, it's like, hey, as long as she has clothes and food, like, we'll be okay kind of thing. And along the way, family came along and we were able to get a crib that somebody was trying to throw out, like that kind of thing. So that's why in my head I was like, it will work itself out,
Yeah, but that's the big contrast.
That's where my thought process was, because I knew that the reason why I thought that way was because it's like, you have your family and I have my family, and I know they wouldn't allow, us to go through something like that because they would be there for support.
Yeah, but then again, and this is for everybody out there, I don't know, and this is just me, family is a trump card. Okay? They're not the first thing you should be leaning on when you're in trouble, right? You got to look at your resources that you have first, see if you're able to tackle the problem yourself, and then if you can't, then you reach outwards. But that shouldn't be your first option. Mm-hmm. Another thing I was taught, right? You got to be able to handle your own business first. Check to see, within your space, you have what you need. And if you don't, then you go seek help outwards, right? So That's how it's always been. I would never pull that card unless I really need it. The people that are close to me, they know that. That is just, I see them as a trump card, right? And the thing is, the most I would do in most situations is call for advice. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to like anything financial, I'm looking at all the resources that I have financially myself. And if there's really nowhere else to turn or look, then I'm reaching my hands out saying, guys, can you please help me? But they would know, like, look, if Wendell's asking, that's a big freaking deal, right? Because he doesn't ask, right?
So I'm guessing with someone like with your kind of background and your perspective on things, like when it comes down to a situation you can't really control, like it's difficult. So like when I, of course, as I was going through my pregnancy, and then I had the really bad morning sickness, and I couldn't even brush my teeth.
Yeah.
Like I would get sick very easily, which was very strange. And then like lighting, smells, all affected me.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, how did you feel then? I mean, of course, I was just horrible. Like I just felt horrible, and I was trying every possible way to help with the nausea. Like I think we got like little acupuncture things, like to help, and then like it was like a bracelet supposedly to help with nausea, and then we did, I think it was like lollipops that were supposed to help.
Yeah, which helped you a lot, actually.
Which helped a little bit. Really, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was just going through that, trying to help myself in regards to that. But during that time, how were you feeling?
To be honest with you, I was fine. Okay. I was just making sure at the end of the day you had what you needed. Because I knew it was just a certain period. Because I did my research, right? I know they said usually in the first trimester is where you will experience like the bloatingness and all that stuff, and then second trimester it will pass for the most part. So I kind of had it in my head like, okay, it will pass. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be forever. It will pass. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I always had it in the back of my mind. So I was like, okay, what do I have right now to make sure you have comfort, so you could get through this thing? Because I felt bad, right? Because I know that I'm like, damn, to wake up every single morning as a routine. And then know that you're going to throw up when you brush your teeth, right? Because I remember it so vividly. I was like, she's going to brush her teeth. She's about to throw up in 5, 4, 3, 2, right? So it became a routine. And I remember like when the second trimester hit and it didn't happen anymore, I was like, I didn't hear you gagging anymore. I was like, so it passed. And you was like, yeah, I don't have that sickness anymore. So I was like, okay. I was like, this is crazy, man. But the thing is, like, reading on it, watching videos, and then remember, you were telling me about some of these things too. Yeah. Right? You were educating me on some of the things that you read as well when it comes down to more sickness. I mean, you brought up the lollipops. I didn't find that. You found that. I did, right? Yeah. So I was like, oh, shoot, there's lollipops that actually help with this stuff? And it was like the lollipops, you wouldn't even know. Like, you could give these lollipops to a kid. They'll think it's like some regular lollipops. You know what I'm saying? So, it was just that the fact of just educating ourselves and at least having that little bit of knowledge helped me get through it. Yeah. But if you're in a position where you don't know what the hell is going on, you're in a panic, and you're not in the state of learning something because you're always in that fight or flight mode, then, you're just going to keep being stressed out. It's not going to work out. So,
but I think like in regards to our relationship and the partnership that we had through that, I think we did a pretty good job. And the reason why I'm saying that is because even though financially, like I wasn't the one doing all the financial stuff. I mean, you still kept me up to date, and we still spoke about it.
Of course.
But I mean, you were working. I mean, yes, I was working too during that time. But I took upon myself to do all the researching. So I did the researching on, the midwife. I did the researching on, finding a place to get like a ultrasound on their 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. So I did more of the things that I needed for the baby and, that kind of stuff. And I was like, why should you be doing that? Like, I'm the one that should be preparing for that kind of thing.
I mean, I'm thankful that you did that, right? Because of the fact that I don't think I would have had the time because I was already distracted with work. And I remember like going through there was times where I was just like, man, if I could just put the work aside just for a little bit and then focus on you, right? But I mean, I was locked in. I mean, throughout the whole thing, I was just like, okay, what do you need me for, right? And the thing is that you were vocal about what you needed. So it wasn't like something where I had to try to figure it out, right? So I know in a lot of cases, maybe in some other relationships, that line of communication of, you know, the woman saying, hey, I need this, doesn't always come out as clearly as it should, right? But you were clear, right? You were like, look, this is what I need right now. Well, can you help me? You know, so
there's no reason to be unclear when I'm feeling sick and I'm pregnant and I feel like a whale.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not that simple, right? Because, but then again, remember, like we already established early on in our relationship, you know, about just being upfront with each other, like letting each other know, okay, look, this is what I'm dealing with, right? So that just transferred over to the pregnancy, and it made it pretty much run for the most part smoothly because we knew what you needed. I made sure that those things were available to you. Yeah. Right? And when you needed them, you grabbed it out of the tool bag and we were good, you know? So
my emotions were just, I mean, pregnancy is crazy. My emotions were just off the wall.
And that was another thing, like, and I did my own research on that. Yeah. You know, to expect the emotions, expect, you know, times of like, you know, crying and being angry and all that stuff. So I was already prepared. Like, I remember that first month, I was already like reading up on that stuff on my own. Like maybe at times when I was at work or I had like a lunch break and all this different stuff, I would take the extra time to read those things. And it would prepare me like, oh, so this is what to expect in these moments. So it didn't come to any surprise. So I was like, look, somebody has to be calm in this situation, right? If you're angry and you're crying, I'm not going to be angry with you. Right?
Like I'll be angry one second, sad the other. Like I'll be angry, and I wouldn't even be with you, but for some reason, my energy, it was just attack. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't want to talk to you, get away from me. And then I'll go into the room, and then 5 minutes later, I will come and say, can I get a hug? And you're like, what is wrong with you? And but I'm like, I got issues. Like,
but that's the thing. I always knew when you were angry, I was like, she's gonna come back, right? This she's gonna wind down. I'm gonna let me just give her a couple of hours to kind of, you know, calm down a little bit, and that's how it always worked out. Yeah. You know, so I was just like, look, you know, just be there, be next to her, and then, you know, when she needs to tap on your shoulder for something, that's what it was all about. Be available. Be available. That was like the main motto for me at that time. Be available. And it worked out. Yeah.
And then like when, you know, finally I went into labor, it took a while. Yeah. For our first. It took a while. We wanted to do a natural birth at home. Yeah. Unfortunately it did not go through.
Labor was too long.
My labor was too long, and I couldn't get any rest. Yeah. And it was exhausting. Like I physically was exhausted. Yeah. So I ended up having to go to the hospital. Our midwife was with us during that time, and thankfully she had a very good connection with the OBs. Yes. And we were there for a while. The great thing about it is that like this is what I'm saying, there's pros and cons to the way you work and the way you think, and the pros in regards to that is that during the time that I coherently couldn't make my own decisions, I was there. You were there,
and I knew what you wanted,
and you knew what I wanted. You know, and like, and I'm serious. It's like I lack of sleep, lack of rest, contractions. I couldn't make my own decisions, and then of course there were filling me up with medication and drugs, and they're asking me questions when I'm drugged up and making me sign things, and I'm over here with my hand, and like I think at one point I even called out to you. I was like, Wendell, like I called out to you, and I was just like literally telling you, like, help me, like I don't know what's going on. I can't read anything that's on this page because my eyes are blurry, like, and they're just making me sign stuff, like. Yeah. So it was just crazy. I mean, during that time, I know that I didn't know what was going on, because I was just, my mindset was just like, this baby needs to come out. And also there was worry because it's like I was laboring for so long that I was worried that and my water had broken. So I was worried that the baby, you know, might have trouble, and, you know, they might end up stating that I was going to have to get a cesarean kind of thing. But during that time, that's what I was thinking about. And my thing was like, this baby's coming out naturally. Like, I am not trying to go get cut open. And I guess, like, because I was in my state, I didn't know what was going on with you.
My thing was, I was looking around, number one. Number two, remember, we discussed this, right? Remember, we had to have a fail-safe.
Yeah.
We spoke about, okay, if it doesn't work out in the home, we have to make sure that they do the birth naturally in the hospital.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we already discussed that. That's the reason why it worked out the way it did, because I knew what you wanted.
Yeah. And I mean, and naturally we mean like vaginal.
Vaginal.
Like, there are drugs involved, but vaginal.
But vaginal, right? Like, the C-section thing is not an option, right?
Yeah.
So I was very clear on that. So I remember there was like making talks about that. And I remember I was telling you, I was like, they are talking about it. I'm hearing them bringing the whole C-section thing up. So I'm hearing it, through the doors. And they probably thought we didn't hear them. But we did.
I didn't, but you did.
Yeah, so I gave you that inside information right there. And I think that tweaked something inside you. I don't know what it did. But when I told you that, our baby, she turned and like, boom, she's in position. Right? And then things started picking up. Then you started dilating, and then boom, damn near 4 o'clock in the morning, she comes out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know when I told you those words, C-section, something physically changed in you, right? Where you were like, okay, like, let's go. Let's go. Like, let's get this thing done. And it was crazy because I remember talking to our midwife, about that, and she was like, Wendell, that's what I wanted for her to feel when we were at home. Right? So I was like, that wasn't her trigger. She was comfortable at home. So I guess she had to be in an uncomfortable situation to want to be like, you know what, I got to get this baby out. And that's what she was like trying to hope. She was hoping you would get to that point, just like mentally saying like, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But I mean, it just it just took being in the hospital for you to do that. I mean,
but I feel like there were other factors involved.
Of course, yeah.
And and there was also like the fact that it wasn't until we got to the hospital that I didn't realize that they were like, oh, I have like an interior lip. Yeah. That prevents my child's like head from coming down completely. They so they literally had to move it themselves, which was one of the main reasons why it's like I wasn't dilating completely. Because once they moved it, I went from 7 to 9.5 right away. So it was crazy. But yeah, I mean after that, midwife, midwife was there. You went home to get some things, came back. It was crazy because it's just like when you're going through it, like, I mean, at least me, when I was going through it, like, there was no, how like people, I mean, it was probably the drugs, but, people are like, oh, once you see them, you have this instant connection, and I was like, no, I didn't have any instant connection with my child. I was exhausted. I was tired, and
she was tired too.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
She was tired.
Yeah,
too. Don't
get me wrong. My first initial thought process was: is she breathing? Is she okay? Is she a good size? Are there any problems? Does she have 10 fingers, 10 toes? Like, is everything good? And it was. And then once that happened, I was like, okay, like so. That was my main concern physically. Is everything okay? After that, I was just too tired, and then when you left, like, I was getting shivers, like, and cold and hot, like from the epidural. And then I think someone came to take like professional pictures of her, and I paid for it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I saw the pictures and I started crying.
Yeah, that's when it hit you.
That's when it hit me. I like literally started crying. The woman's like, "Are you okay? Everything's fine." And I'm just like, "I have a baby."
I'm not gonna lie. Like, she's talking about the emotional part, but I remember when I was holding her. It was at night.
I took a picture.
Yeah,
of you.
Yeah, you did. But this is when you were sleeping, and I was holding her. That's when I got emotional. But she was knocked out. I didn't want her to wake up. So, I was tearing up a little bit, holding her, and I was like, man, like, you know, the long labor and then all the, you know, paperwork, and then seeing all these doctors come in and out, and then you know when they brought the young doctors in to do the whole catheter
all
thing.
the females, yeah,
like, you know, for practice, you know, and then it was just so much going on.
I was an experiment.
Yeah, okay. What the hell? First of all, I was like about to tell them to stop, but I mean, I saw that the girl, she was comfortable, because I was looking at her to see if she was confident in terms of what she was doing, and she was like, oh, you know, she did it, boop. And, you know, she did what she had to do in order to help you pee.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. But, you know, if she didn't show any confidence, I would have told him to stop.
Yeah.
You know, so, but for me, it's crazy. It's like, you could go through so much, you know, but when you hold, you know, your baby in your hands, it's like, I could care less what we went through up until that point. You know, like, it kind of just went away, and I didn't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's crazy because we had all of that going on with our first child, and then we did plan for our second. You know, my thought process is like, he literally said, he's like, when you're ready, he's like, we can go ahead and try.
But I remember though, you weren't saying before you, like, I didn't think you would want another one, because you were like hell bent on not having another child after, you know, our baby was born. After she was born.
No, I wasn't.
Like you, like I didn't sense that from you.
I didn't say I was helping. No, I remember I very plainly told you I don't want a child right now.
Yeah.
That's what I stated, right now.
No, I'm thinking that didn't want...
I do want another child because I didn't want my daughter to be on her own, for one. I know I mean, even though I do have, you know, a brother and sister, they're older than me by 11 years. So I know what it feels like to be an only child where it's just you know? So I was like, no, I have another child, and I wanted to try for a boy, you know? So it wasn't that I was saying, no, I don't want any more kids. It was more of like... You
sound pretty aggressive to me.
It wasn't, I don't want any more kids. It was more of like, I just had a baby.
No, of course. I mean,
and I would like...
Back-to-back like that?
I would like this child to be potty trained before I have to start changing diapers for another child. Yeah. So that's, you know, that's how I planned it. We planned it, and, you know, then I remember how I told you.
Oh man, yeah. Go
so
ahead.
I actually... So
this is a crazy story, y'all. Go ahead.
I told him like I was ready to have another child, and he was like, okay. So, of course, birth control. I was on birth control, and you know, I was explaining to him that sometimes when you're on birth control, it takes a little while for me to conceive or to have a child. Yep. So, and I thought the same, because I was just like, okay. I mean, I've been on birth control for a while, like, so I got off the birth control. And within the month, I got pregnant.
Yeah, man. I mean,
like, it didn't even wait. It was like, nope, you're fertile. There you go.
Swimmers, man.
And I wanted to surprise him, and it was crazy because we were actually going to a chiro
at that time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I had an appointment to get an X-ray done. But I was worried that I might be pregnant. So I actually took a test the morning of that I was going, and it came back positive. And I was like, oh man. So I went to the chiro, and I remember I spoke to her, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do that X-ray because I just found out that I'm pregnant. And she was like, oh, congratulations. So I told her, I was like, my husband's and I are coming, like, I think in 2 days, because he had his appointment. And I was like, maybe we can, I was like, can you help me in doing like a surprise or something? And she was like, yeah, sure. So I was like, I have the test right here. I'm like, can you just pretend that you've taken the X-rays, and then like you act like something weird happened in the X-rays, or you saw something weird? And she was like, sure. So we went there. He was sitting down and all that stuff, and she was like just talking to him, and she was like, she's like, Stephanie, we have your X-rays. And, you know, my husband was there. He was like, okay, we're going to see her X-rays. And she's like, there's something a little off about the X-ray. And we just wanted to show you to kind of explain to you what's going on. And I was like, okay. And he's over here panicking.
I'm like, yo, what the hell, man? What is going on? Like, this is not cool right now, man. We over here doing I was like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, look, we're a pretty healthy family. Like, you know, we eat right, we take our vitamins, been active for the most part. We move around, so I was like, please, not right now, man. Not
yeah.
right now,
so then she tells her assistant, like, she's telling my husband, she's like, she's like, is it okay if we record this? It's for teaching purposes and that stuff. And he was like, yeah, sure.
Crazy.
So she's recording and she's like, here. So she gives him, well, this one was like one of those dollar ones. So it's a little box.
Yeah.
It's not like the actual long one that you can automatically tell.
Yeah.
So he took it and he's looking at this little thing and he's like, what is this? And then finally it clicks and he's just like, oh no. And he just looked at me, he's like, for real? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And he's just like, y'all got me. He's like, y'all got me. He's like, y'all got me. Like, he literally stated I was not going to get him the second time. He was like, you're not going to be able to surprise me. I'm going to know when you're pregnant. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, she played it all smooth, man. Real smooth. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Because she was like, yeah, so here. Right, mid-sentence. Here, I was like, what is this little device? First of all, I'm used to the pregnancy test being the
longer ones.
So I would have picked it up real quick. But I was like, what's this little purple thing? What this has anything to do with her back? Right? So I'm like, wait. And then I saw the 2 lines. I was like, oh, okay. You got me really good there. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. So then you already know, right then and there, planning mode. There we go. And, we started, but this time it was a lot more, my mind wasn't racy, because I was like, look, we've been here before. We already got some items already.
Yeah.
Right? Because of, our daughter. Yeah?
And we were thinking ahead, too, because when we had our daughter, we were neutral colors.
Yeah.
We don't want pinks and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that helped out a lot, actually. Yeah. So we had a good amount of clothes to, start with. And then, the crib was already there. And you had the baby swing in case, all that stuff. Stroller, all that. So I was like, you know what? We're good.
Yeah.
In terms of a registry, we didn't really ask for much, to be honest with you. I mean, there really wasn't much to ask for to begin with. But, the one thing that, did come up during that time was us having to make a move.
Yes.
Right? So that was where I had the most concerns. That stressed me the hell out. Mm-hmm. Because, I made the decision for us to go back home, back to New York to be with family at that time, to support. But then again, here you are pregnant, and then I'm over here thinking man, I'm driving back, all of our stuff in the car, and then here you are having to jump on the plane.
Yeah, with our daughter.
Yeah, with our daughter. Yeah. And I gotta say, that moment of me being in the car driving up to New York, and then you flying, that was when I was the most stressed.
Yeah. Because
you weren't near me. I wasn't knowing what's going on, and then, you taking that flight, even though you weren't a flight risk, you were safe to fly. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, man, I gotta get back. So I was stepping on it for the most part, making sure that I get to New York at a good time. And I was excited, but then again, I was kind of a little bit worried, because I'm like, me going back to New York, We don't have our own place.
We don't have our own place.
Yeah. We're going to be crashing with family members temporarily. Mm-hmm. So we were really in an uncomfortable spot, but, we knew why we were there, right? Yeah. It was to be there to support our family. That's what it was. So.
And then, when we left, that was about 24 weeks. Yeah. So we had already done some visits. I think 2 visits, and then we did the sonogram.
Who did they?
So we already knew.
Sex and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you should have seen him when he found out that it was a boy.
Yeah.
He was just like, yes. And I was like, yep, that's a boy. That's a boy.
I remember that.
So we had already done that. So with me, it was more of okay, now I gotta do it all over again, because I already had found a midwife in where we were at.
Yeah, we were really was moving ahead at a good speed too. And then guys, we even had the space that we were living in was perfect.
And there were cats.
Yeah, that's her.
I love cats.
We sacrificed a lot.
Yeah. But it was, other than that, it was a lot smoother with our son.
Yes.
The pregnancy was a lot smoother with our son.
It was a calm day.
By 8 by 8 weeks, my
you didn't get morning. You didn't get morning.
By
sickness.
8 weeks, my morning sickness was gone.
But you didn't really get morning sickness as intense.
No, as intensely as the first.
I mean, you'll get it every now and again, but it wasn't like every single day. And then number 2, you weren't like sensitive to smells.
No. I wanted steak and potatoes.
Yeah, you wanted more heavy food. This
I wanted
time.
a lot of protein. I was like protein.
High carbs, high protein. Mm-hmm. That was like what she was craving for at that time. So, and you were at the right place because the way my family cooks is heavy, right? So,
and my side of the family too.
Yeah. So I mean, that food was already available to you. So I mean, it worked out. I mean, I was glad that we even found a birthing center in New York, right?
Yeah, we were able to find a birthing
because it was still
center.
kind of similar to what we wanted. It just wasn't like
at home
at the in-home visits from the midwife, but we just had to go to the center and they would check up on them. But still good. I mean, still overall, and like you said, yes, it was a nice day. Yeah. Very calm. Yeah. Very, very calm. Like this one was so much different. Like we walked a little bit and all that.
Yeah, I worked all the way till I was going through labor, but it was because I was remote.
Yes.
So I was working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think like when I got up to start working, which was at 6 a.m.
That's when it started.
That's when the contraction started, and I was like,
perfect time.
Oh, it was a little bit like our son was saying, like, oh, you're gonna work, but not the work that you were thinking of.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Like, so I was like 6 a.m, and then you were getting you were I think still laying down because you were gonna get up a little later
to go to work.
To go to work, and I told you I was like, I have contractions. And
you were when you told me that, I was like, oh, you got. Yeah. That's when I was prepared. My manager was on speed dial, hit him up. Oh, can't come in. Labor started. Good luck.
Yeah.
Close the phone. All that stuff shut down.
Yeah, you know? Contacted our midwife, and our midwife was like, okay, since this is your second child, we would suggest for you to come into the birthing center.
Yeah.
So we did all of that. It literally was very it was a nice sunny day.
It rained when we went home.
Yeah, it did rain when we went home. It was a sunny day. We went and got bagels.
Yeah, the bagels.
We went and got bagels. And we came back, and I think around 3 p.m, my water broke.
It was 3 hours. It was like 3 or 4 hour labor. That's it.
And no, I was going through labor. I was getting my contractions.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like.
But the actual hard labor.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 hours. So, which compared to how our daughter was.
Yeah.
You know.
It was about.
It was just smooth, man.
Yeah, it's about like 12 and a half to 13 hours.
Yeah, because starting from the morning.
And then
which was around 6, and then he was born near 7.
Near 7. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it was actually a very easy labor with our second child, and he was a big boy.
Yeah, 9.5.
He was 9.5 pounds.
Yeah, and then our daughter was like 8'4".
Yeah, she was like 8 pounds. But big babies in my family.
Yeah.
Big babies. I was a 9-pound baby. So big babies in our family, and the same thing. He was full term, and 3 days.
Yeah.
So.
And then I mean, just definitely what we learned in the first pregnancy definitely helped with the second. So it was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Ask.
No, I was going to say that this time though the birthing center said it was mandatory for us to take those classes. Remember?
Oh yes, guys. So we did take birthing classes. It was a requirement within New York State. For us to take those classes, even though we were forced, but I was glad that we were forced, right? Mm-hmm. Because what happened was when we were in the classes, we started thinking about the first pregnancy. We were like, oh shoot, like these are the steps that we missed along the way. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm not gonna lie, hearing some of those things and then comparing the two, it hurt, right? Because it was like, you know what, we should have took the birthing class prior to that, right? But then again, you know, you know,
finances.
It wasn't even just finance. It's just like I thought like, well, it's Google. You know, we have YouTube. You know, there's all these different free resources out there where you can kind of read up on to learn these things. But there's nothing that can compare rather than being in a room with an instructor that can connect with you face to face and tell you the things that you need to know. Right? Rather than watching a video or reading a book.
I mean, she had a lot of experience because she herself was a doula.
Yep.
So she had
all the techniques.
Yeah, she had all the techniques, and she had the experience. She had the, you know, it wasn't just like, this is what, you know, pregnancy and labor is like. It was more of like, well, this is what it's like, and this is what you should see. But, it was like she included the husbands, the partners, and they were like, this is where you would come in regards to this and this situation.
Yeah, that was eye-opening, man. I remember there was some things they were talking about, especially like the hospital part. Like, these are the things that they do in the hospital, and then we were thinking like, wait, that happened, and we were like, that could have been avoided. We could have said no. Those kind of things. I was just like, crap, and But then again, I had to push that aside. So I was like, above all, our daughter was fine.
Yeah.
She was good.
So
and, we definitely came in to our son's birth way more educated, prepared.
We're a lot more prepared.
Confident too. Confidence was off the rails because of the fact that we had a really good teacher. Yeah. And she left those resources to us to refer back to. It wasn't like, she just taught us things and we walked out. No, there was resources like
she gave us a lot of
worksheets
resources.
And all this stuff that we could always look back on. And and I took those techniques and discussions to heart, man.
Yeah, she was how I found our doula.
Yep.
We found our doula through her.
Yeah, our doula, she was cool.
And we were fortunate this time where I was able to give a natural birth with no medication and just easy vaginal birth. And yes, it hurts. But compared to Pitocin contractions,
it was like
not as bad. Pitocin contractions hurt way more.
It's contractions. Like what you said, it's contractions on like steroids, right?
Yes.
It's kind of it's going like crazy.
It's bad. Yeah. But I feel like, of course, with a second child, you usually, are more prepared. With things like you're more stable. You're like you know what you're expecting, kind of thing. So it makes sense that our mind states were kind of like at the same level. I mean, there were other factors like, not having our own place kind of thing, but we worked around it and we were able to kind of do the best that we could with what we had.
Yeah.
So I think that was great. And, when it comes down to us, this is just, like I stated before, this is our perspective. We are not downplaying hospitals where, this is just how we feel.
Definitely not, yeah.
And I'm not trying to downplay a cesarean because I feel like cesareans are life-saving when they are needed. When they are not needed, I don't feel like they should be there available. I feel like if a woman, is able to give a vaginal birth, she shouldn't be pushed to have a cesarean. It should be something that should come in when there are dangers involved and there's health issues and risk involved for either the mother or the child. But for me, knowing that my birth was fine, it was going smoothly, and that I could, by my doctor and by my midwife, I was told that I could give birth vaginally. I found no reason why I should do it any different. But that's just our perspective. My husband's perspective and my perspective in regards to pregnancy and labor, as you can tell, they're very different, and it makes sense.
But the thing is that with the different perspectives, what's going to clear all of that, especially for the new parents, take the birthing class.
Yes.
Right? And the reason why is because you learn a lot about each other then too, right? Because of all the different techniques they're going to teach you in terms of, how to help during the labor process, what to do throughout the pregnancy, right? So take what it was like 4 or 5 weeks, once every week. It's worth it, guys. It's worth it. Like, I know it's going to be a little bit expensive, but it's an opportunity for you and your partner to hone in and really focus on each other, right? It's a time about you. Yeah. And especially, for us, it was good for us because we were able to get away from our daughter and just focus. We weren't distracted by anything else.
Yeah.
So, I'm begging you, any males who, wife, girlfriend that's pregnant right now, you better go take a birthing class, especially if it's your first child. Even if for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, take one, please. I'm begging you.
And there are hospitals that
has those classes
that have the classes, and they do provide some free or at a lower cost, or sometimes they can get your insurance to cover them. So there are different ways to do it.
Even if it's virtual, like I know there's probably virtual ones out there too. But the whole point is you and your partner are working together as a team, right? That's the main part. that I can't even explain how great that is, right?
So. I mean, it's good to have different perspectives on the pregnancy and labor, but it's also good to be in the same mindset.
Correct.
When it comes to that moment.
Yep.
Like, because yes, my husband's very strategic, and I tend to be a little bit more laid back on things. But when it comes down to something serious like this, like, we both need to be in the same mindset. Like, okay, what are our next steps if something like this happens? Or what do we do? What's plan B for this, and this? So I feel like that is something that you also need to have. You have to be in the same, wavelength when it comes down to a serious situation. Yeah. One partner can be completely lost while the other one is making all the decisions.
Yeah.
It's
true. Yeah, this is a really good topic.
Yeah.
Definitely, guys, love to hear your experiences. Any questions you may have, please comment, like, share, and above all, subscribe.
Yeah.
And we see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Peace.